Hey everyone, Griff Hamlin here. I'm going to call it a lesson, but really it's almost more of a discussion slash video reply to a question or a thread that has been going on for a while in the Blues Guitar Unleashed member forum. Basically, the topic started with, how do I take these building blocks, these pieces that I've learned in Blues Guitar Unleashed, and turn them into real songs. And what I really believe is the issue is not so much how to take the pieces and use them as it's almost in defining what constitutes a real song. And so after having some discussion about this for a while, what's really obvious to me is that the main problem has more to do with arranging for guitar than it does with actually playing the parts. And as an example, one of the members was talking about playing a song with his wife. They're actually both doing the chorus at the same time. So the idea was his wife really didn't feel comfortable playing something that's not on the page. And I know a lot of people struggle with this. If it's not these notes going across on the page, it's sometimes hard to know exactly what to play. So it's kind of making that leap. And so what I thought what might be kind of cool today is I'm going to basically try and go through some of the steps that I use when I'm deciding how to take these different pieces and apply them to a song. And more importantly, you got to make the decision ahead of time of how it is you're going to play that song, okay? So let's say that you're going to play by yourself, okay? And you've decided that you want to play Crossroads, and I've just chosen Crossroads because it's a standard blues, but I could have put any set of lyrics over the top of this, and in fact, probably to avoid any sort of copyright thing, I will change the lyric and change the melody a little bit, assuming I even know how the melody actually goes. I've heard 37 versions of this tune, so I'm not exactly sure how the melody really goes. If I would have to quote Robert Johnson's original melody on Crossroads, I don't even know if I could do that. But let's say, okay, so it's a blues in A, and I'm going to play by myself. Now, if I was playing by myself, probably I would have an acoustic guitar in my hands instead of an electric, just because it's easier, and I might be sitting out on the porch, or I might be hanging out at the beach or whatever. But I've got an electric in my hands. Please understand, it's the same. It doesn't change anything. So the main thing about Crossroads is, what's the feel going to be? Okay, well, I'll say the Robert Johnson, the original recording, is kind of about here. 1 and 2, and it's a swing as opposed to a straight feel. If you take Clapton Cream era Crossroads, that's 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2. So the first thing you got to do is you got to think, okay, well, what recording am I going off of? And is it a straight feel? 1, and 2, and 3. Is it a swing feel? 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. Is it fast? 1, and 2, and 3. Or is it a fast swing? 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. Is it a slow blues? 1, and 2, and 3. There's all these different possibilities. So until you either decide for yourself, because the same tune can be played in pretty much any feel you want. So either you have to decide what the feel is, or you have to, choose a recording that's got the feel that you want, okay? So now at that point, and all these, the different feels are also discussed in Blues Guitar Unleashed. There's a whole chapter on, what is a swing feel and how do you count it and how do you put that all together. So I'm trying to remember. I think it's now lesson 6 is tore down. I think it's a little bit later on. It's the whole swing feel thing. Anyway, I forget where it is in there exactly which lesson. There's 30 something of them, so it's hard to remember exactly which one, but it's in there. So so let's say that I've decided I'm going to do the basic, I'll say blues in A rhythm, which is kind of a slightly faster than a slow blues, but I'm just going to play this. Okay, now that groove, that feel, that's lesson 8. Okay, so if you're trying to think about, where do I go find this stuff, it's lesson 8. It's also in acoustic Blues Guitar Unleashed if you're doing the acoustic version. Most all of this stuff is either in both places or is on YouTube, and I'm going to try and tell you where every piece is so that you're not missing anything. Okay, so far I've got a groove. Now either if, like in the case of my forum member, he might want to have his wife play that because it's written down. It's very, very straight, very plain. There's no room for wondering how that might go, okay? Now here's the thing. You got to decide, are you going to sing? Is somebody going to sing? Because what we think of as a song has a lot more to do with the lyric and the melody than it does with the chords, especially in blues. Because in blues, I could probably name you 100 different songs that have the exact same chords. So chords don't make a song. Sometimes we have, you know, a riff, or like, okay, and we have some sort of signature riff for a song. That definitely happens, but that doesn't mean that you have to have that riff to play that song. I mean, look at the Crossroads example. A lot of us associate that lick with Crossroads because that's what Clapton played, you know, the Cream era recording of it. But Robert Johnson sure didn't have it, and he still played the song. So you don't need that. And let's say I was going to do Born Under a Bad Sign, and I was playing it by myself, you know. Born under a bad sign, been down since I began to crawl. You know, I don't have to play that riff, especially if I'm playing it by myself, okay? I don't even have to do that walk-up thing. And I could do it like this, which is kind of the funk strum. What is that, lesson 13, I think, in BGU? Or I could maybe add some stuff. Now, of course, you know, this lick, it's nothing but box 3. You know, you figure that you kind of go through the tune and you figure out what key it's in. You go, okay, it's C sharp. Maybe you can't sing it in C sharp, so put it in B, put it in A, whatever. It doesn't matter, you know. Put it wherever you're going to put it because the rest of the chords are going to be straight blues. And I'll come back to that. But what I'm trying to impress upon you is don't worry so much about a signature riff because it's really not that important. So put a pin in that Born Under a Bad Sign, and we'll come back to it. And I know this is a little bit scatterbrained, but I'm trying to bring a whole lot of things together in one video without making it 45 minutes long. So, you know, try and bear with me here. So let's say we're doing Crossroads, and I've done kind of a medium swing, and I'm doing a quick change, okay? Went down to the crossroads, you know, that kind of thing. Fell down on my knees. Now, if you don't sing, you got to put something there, okay? That's just the way it goes. Without some sort of melody, you're going to have a really hard time making anything that sounds even vaguely close to a song. Just playing chords, again, like I say, that's not going to make a song. So if you're not going to sing it and somebody you're with is not going to sing it, you're probably going to want to play along with an original recording, okay? And that can be done. There's a really cool site I use sometimes, and some of my students use. It's called karaokeversion.com. I think it's karaoke-version.com, and you can actually make your own jam tracks. You can like choose which instruments you want. One of them can be a vocal usually. Not always, but sometimes. So you could actually have like everything for that tune except a guitar. It's kind of cool. Or, you know, maybe you're going to play in a band, okay? In which case somebody else is going to sing. That's fine. But you're going to arrange what you're going to play differently in a band context, and I'll get into that in just a second. But let's say for now that you're going to sing it and you're also going to play this. So you're going to play this by yourself. So again, I'll just start from the top. Let's make it a little bit more interesting. Instead of just playing the basic groove, let's throw in a turnaround. Okay, so I'm going to use I call this my famous Robert Johnson turnaround. Okay, so it's and I have a YouTube video of this. It's also in acoustic BGU, and it might be in, if you have the bonus turnaround supplement that goes with the regular version of Blues Guitar Unleashed. It's probably in there too. So I'm not going to demonstrate that whole thing right now, but let's just add that to what I've got so far. So I've got my groove down to the crossroads. Make it a quick change. Fell down on my knees. Now it's going to seem empty right here. Went down to the crossroads. Fell down on my knees. Again, it seems kind of empty here. We might want to do something. I beg the Lord above for mercy. Help me if you please. And so on and so forth, right? So now, most people would say, I'm playing a real song, okay? But you notice I've got kind of those big, giant, empty spaces, okay? So I want to do something in those big, giant, empty spaces. This is where you can do anything you want, okay? That's where you put a fill, some sort of lick, some sort of whatever you want to go there, okay? It's in the key of A. You probably know the A blues scale. If you don't, again, it's lesson 15, right? And lesson 18 is a solo full of licks. So just pick any of them. So let's say I pick one. Down to the crossroads, fell down on my knees. Went down to the crossroads, fell down on my knees. I'll beg the Lord above for mercy. Help me if you please. And there we have, again, now I've filled in those spaces, okay? What are you going to play in those spaces? You get to decide. Just pick a lick, okay? What if I use like the 4-note solo thing? Let's see. So if you've seen my 4-note solo video on YouTube, let's say that I was going to use the first lick. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2. Now that's too long. So I'm just going to use this much. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. Okay, just that much. So went down to the crossroads, fell down on my knees. I went down, and you see how that just went in there, right? We just stuck it in. But as I always talk about, it's all about the rhythm, okay? If you don't have your time right there, if you can't keep the time, you're not going to know where that lick goes. You're not going to come back in at the right time. You're not going to know when to come back in. So remember, I always talk about the rhythm being so important. Playing in this style where you're doing it all. This is the whole basis for the Playing on the Porch lessons, the last 2 lessons in Blues Guitar Unleashed. The whole reason for doing that is so that you will learn how to keep your own time and how to play on your own without needing somebody. Now let's basically, I've put it all together, okay? I took a basic rhythm, I put it together, I added the words over it, okay? If you're not gonna sing, maybe somebody else will. I added a turnaround and I added a few licks in there, okay? So I put the whole song together. I can do the whole song that way, and I have hundreds of times in my career. There's nothing else to it. I've gotten on stages all over the world and done exactly what I just did for you. All you have to do is try it, and it's probably going to be awful the first time. You have to try it again. I know that probably sounds silly and I sound patronizing when I say that, but it's so many people stop 2 inches from the finish line. They do it 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times, and every time it gets kind of messed up and doesn't work right, and they can't sing and play at the same time. I get that. Just keep trying. think of it like your child learning to walk. You know, if the child doesn't learn to walk in a year, you don't give up. You just keep going. Eventually, it will get there. And I promise you that if you are really focusing on the beat in particular and counting and, you know, stomp your foot, do whatever you got to do to make that happen, you can do this, okay? So let's say that I've got Crossroads all put together now and I can play it by myself, okay? I got a real song. Cool, all right? Now somebody else is going to play it with me. No problem. All you got to do, if it's just you and a buddy or you and your spouse, all you got to do is separate those parts. So one person might take over the rhythm. So maybe now I'm not playing the rhythm. I'm just going down to the crossroads while somebody else is playing the rhythm. Fell down. And by the way, snapping your fingers and singing it, that's how you know you got it. Because if you can't, remember I always say you can't play anything you can't hum. Singing is the same way. So if I've got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, I went down to the crossroads, 4, and fell down on my knees, 2 and 3 and 4, and maybe I do lick. I went down to the crossroads, and this whole time, my buddy or my spouse or whoever, maybe my kids if I'm lucky, is playing that other part, and I'm going on top of it. So now 2 people are doing it together. Okay, so nothing has really changed as far as the arrangement. Okay, if that makes sense. So the arrangement is what you're going to play. You know, it's separate from the chords and the melody. My wife could play the melody on a saxophone. Okay, if she knew. Okay, that could be. So I could go, you know, come in 1 and 2. Okay, and that's the melody. It doesn't have any words to it, but it's still going to sound more like a song than nothing at all right there. Okay, and like I said, that could be, somebody could play that on a harmonica, somebody could play it on a saxophone, somebody could play it on a piano, on another guitar. It really doesn't matter. And guess where all those notes come from, by the way? They're all from the minor blues scale. Okay, I'm not. All of the notes to all of the melodies you ever try to come up with for blues songs are probably going to fall in that. So, you know, if you figure that you're playing an A and you're trying to figure out what that melody is, don't be bothering with notes that aren't in the pentatonic scale, because they're not going to be it. So you just eliminated, you know, 7 out of 12 notes, which is nice. It's a lot easier to hunt through 5 notes than it is to hunt through 12. Okay, so far we've pretty much got that all put together. Well, let's say that you really want to do more of like that Cream era recording and you want to do that thing, and you're going to play it along with either a band or you've got some backing track. And I've actually got a backing track right here that I'm going to play. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just still play. I'm going to give myself a little bit of that. I'm going to still play, but we're going to be going faster and in a straight feel. So instead of, it's going to be, okay, so it's going to be 1 and 2 and 3 instead of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So I'm going to do that, and I have a jam track that's going to do everything else. Okay, so now I'm not going to, I'll go ahead and sing over it. What the heck? There's no lyric, there's no melody or anything on this. It's just a jam track. It's meant for practicing your improvising, but you can also practice a song over it too. All you need is a jam track that's reasonably close to the feel you want and in the right key. So this jam track happens to be kind of in that, Cream era Crossroads sound. So let me just grab this real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4. Down to Lord above for mercy, help me if you please. Down to the crossroads, try to flag a right. Down to the crossroads, try to flag a right. Nobody seemed to know me, everybody passed me by. And I think you get the idea. That's I could go on and on and on and on with that, but I think you get the idea, right? So you can sing or not, and then I just decided to put a solo there, and what's the band gonna do? Complain? So anyway, you can totally do whatever you want with this, but notice that nothing really changed. What I played didn't really change. I had some overdrive on the tone. I played it a little faster. But I didn't change. It wasn't a quick change on the first 12, but past that, I could have made it. I just didn't. Again, I got to decide, so that's what I decided. And none of it changed the song. It's all still a real song, and I guess that's the biggest point that I hope I'm making here. Now, a little while ago, I alluded to. Let me close that. A little while ago, I alluded to "Born Under a Bad Sign," and there's a song that particularly the Albert King version has that signature riff. So, how are you going to handle that? To be perfectly honest with you, it's totally up to you how you want to handle it. Again, if I just played, let's say I was going to again mix some things. Lesson 11. In Blues Guitar Unleashed is kind of like the thrill is gone. So okay, so let's say I was going to do Born Under a Bad Sign, and I'm going to do it in C sharp. I'm going to let you look at my hand here, see what I do. So this little move that I just did is in lesson 6, the tore down lesson. Well, I went to the river to jump in. My baby showed up and said, "I'll tell you." Okay, so it's a real common move. It's all over the place. So I'm gonna throw it in with this kind of Born Under a Bad Sign idea, right? So I'm gonna go born on a bad sign. And down since I began to crawl. And then I need to go to the 5 chord. Now, let's say that you didn't automatically hear that. Okay, well, I could just turn on the recording and fish, and I'd find it. Okay, and so, and in fact, I'm going to do that. All right, I've got that tune here. I really don't want to leave anything left to chance. So. Alright, so there's the actual Born Under a Bad Sign, right? Hope that's not too loud. Okay, there. That's my process. Okay, that right there is the process. Turn it on and keep playing notes until you find the one that fits. That's it. I don't have perfect pitch. Never have, never will. Now, what I do have is I have very good relative pitch. So once I've figured out what home bass is, I got no problem going from there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to turn this on. C sharp, okay? So I know that it's C sharp. Now, from your experience, you should know that most signature riffs, most melodies, everything in blues comes from a pentatonic scale, right? So I know it's in C sharp, which is up here. So if I were to just play the pentatonic scale, you can really hear right now, it's getting close to having some of those notes already. Okay, but they sound lower than this. So let's just work our way down through the boxes until we feel like we're more in the same area. So if that's box 1, box 5, box 5, I'm just listening to see if I've caught it yet. No, how about box 4? Boy, that's getting really close. But now I'm too high, right? So let's go down to box 3. Whoa, how about that? What do you think? I mean, it's straight out. How hard was that to find? It's just the box. I just fished around for a minute. Check it out. That's and then he goes, and then it's some low note. Well, I can't go any lower than that. Luckily, that happens to be the right one. All right, so we know it's lower than this. And then, if you hum it, da 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 da, you know, it's something really low. Well, I've already played the second, you know, almost the lowest note I got. So I'm going to go down to the lowest one and hope that's it. And sure enough, it is. If it wasn't, then you would know, okay, the guitar's tuned, you know, to some other key. He's got notes on there you don't have. That's a whole different problem. It doesn't want, and it's one that doesn't come up very often. So we got a lot going on already. So now we've basically figured out the riff, okay? It's just the pentatonic box. That's it. I'm done. Now, the next part's going to come up here in the middle in a minute. Now, it's blues, right? So what's that chord probably going to be? 4 or 5? That's it. If it's not, probably something very different. Okay, it's not really a blues tune. Blues is 1, 4, 5. You know how to find the 4 and the 5. So how hard is it to then go, okay, well, it must be 4 or 5. It's that one. It's the G sharp. It's the 5. The next one's the F sharp. So that, again, if you've gone through, I forget what lesson that is, 2 or 3 in Blues Guitar Unleashed, where it shows how to find the 1, 4, and 5 in any key no matter what. It doesn't matter where you are. Okay, so if you know you're in C sharp, you know the 4 is F sharp and the 5 is G sharp. C sharp, F sharp, G sharp. Now there's that little walk up to the G sharp. Walk ups like that are usually chromatic. And sure enough, this one would fit. Born under a bad sign, been down since I began to crawl. Wasn't for bad blood, I wouldn't have no luck at all. Okay, now this rhythm that I'm doing, that's lesson 13, I'm pretty sure, the funk rhythm, okay? So you can mix that in with so I just put the two together, okay? Really not that complicated. It's just, you know, if you know them both, if you know that lesson, that funk rhythm really well, and if you figure out, you're going to figure out there's some places that it stops. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2. So there's that kind of 1 and 2 where it just sort of hangs out there. Well, if you want to put something in there, you can take the 1 and 2 parts of that rhythm. 1 and 2. 1 and 2. 1 and 2, and 3. 1 and 2, and 1 and 2. So you see how I took that Born Under a Bad Sign riff, and it had this sort of blank spot in it, you know? 1 and 2, and 3, and... So that 1 and 2 was just kind of empty, and I just thought, oh, I want something in there that's going to add a little motion. Okay, well, since this kind of has that 16th note feel, again, I'm just 1 E and a 2 E and a 3. That's just from listening. Okay, that's just kind of 1 and 2 and 3. If it's a straight feel and it's a fairly slow tempo, then you can throw 16th notes in there. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a, okay, so that can all get put together that way. Now, where you take it from there, again, it's totally up to you. And these chords, this is lesson 1, you know. One for bad luck, I wouldn't have no luck at all. So I've just put that all together, okay? Now, again, I could go grab a jam track and, you know, you could see all that stuff. It's the same. I think you see by now that it would be no different if I had a jam track for this tune. I probably wouldn't play it all that much differently with a band. I might take out but I might leave it in. Again, you get to decide, okay? If you had somebody else, it would be kind of cool to have, you know, another person that could, you know, maybe fill, you know, again, do that call and response against the vocals. So you have born under a bad sign, been down since I began to crawl. You know, so you could have somebody that could throw in some licks there. That'd be kind of cool. Be kind of fun. If you were, you know, just playing along with a jam track of something along those lines, you might just sing and fill. That's what most of the, I'll say the famous blues guys, B.B. King, Albert King, Freddie King, a lot of those guys, yeah, they might have played while they sang, but a lot of times they didn't. A lot of times their job was to sing and fill and play solos, and they didn't play a lot of chords. You know, that's just kind of the old school way. You know, nowadays it's not always that way as much, but even still, you know, if you're singing, you're not going to be able to do a whole lot else. So your rhythm playing is definitely going to relax when you are singing. And again, through all of this, the central point that I got to make is that if you don't have good time and you can't keep track of the beat and know where you are, all of this is probably going to fall apart. And if you're trying to play a song by yourself in this way and you're trying to figure out how to put it together and you're really, really struggling with that, I would say 99 times out of 100, the problem is that you don't know what beat things fall on. And that's where you got to start playing and tapping your foot and getting used to noticing where things fall, such as bom, bom, do, 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 do. And you might want to count it while you tap your foot. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2. That kind of exercise can help you fill in those gaps and know where everything is. And again, and then same thing with the vocal. Born under a bad sign. And 3, and 4, 1. I've been down since I began to crawl. Bump, bump. Dun, dun, one for bad luck. If you can't do that with just snapping your fingers, you're going to have a very, very hard time actually putting the notes to it. If you've got that beat already built in, you're going to have a much easier time just sticking notes on top of it. You can think of them as an anchor. I call the beats a framework a lot, and without the framework, the notes won't hang. There's nothing to hang the notes on. Okay, so I know this has been a really long and kind of winding video, and you know, I hope I haven't raised more questions than I've answered. I've really tried to show you how you take, you know, this thing out of the course, and this thing out of the course, and this thing out of the course, and put them all together. A lot, you know, people have even asked me, you know, to do a course on how to play real songs, and I'll be honest with you, I don't even know what else I would put in there. You know, I've purposely made Blues Guitar Unleashed be about the tools, and using those tools, you can figure out and play anything you want, and that's really the key to me. It's, you know, the teaching you how to fish and not just giving you the fish. And of course, it's fun sometimes to just do a tune, and I get that, but I also know that in the long run, for me growing up, it was way more beneficial to figure out how to play a song or to figure out what I was going to play. That will serve you 100 times more a year from now than me just showing you how to play Born Under a Bad Sign. And you're probably perfectly capable of going to a tab site or buying a tab book of Born Under a Bad Sign and playing it, but you won't get very much out of it without having your brain engaged and looking at it objectively with, okay, what that I know is this. So when I play this riff, don't just think 2/4 2/4 2/4. Don't do it that way. Look at it and go, okay, well, what shape is this that I know? And play all the pentatonic shapes and see which one matches. If it's not immediately obvious, we'll try a few. Okay, take that time to do that. Now, you might find it somewhat frustrating and somewhat tiring, and that's good, because that's your brain getting in the game. When your brain's getting in the game and it's starting to try to place all this stuff and figure out how it all goes, yeah, you're going to be kind of worn out. 20 minutes of trying to figure out what shape that Born Under a Bad Sign goes in, you're going to be pretty worn out. That's okay. Put it down and come back, the next day or later that day or whatever. Give yourself some time to relax. So get your thinking cap on even while you're looking at the tab in front of you, and it will make all the difference, because you'll go, oh, he's just using that pentatonic scale. And you know what? By the 4th or 5th tune that you realize, hey man, he's just using the pentatonic scale. Next tune that comes along, you're going to go right to the pentatonic scale and you're going to figure it out almost immediately. Or you'll even just hear something. You might be driving along in your car and you'll hear something and you're like, oh, that's pentatonic. I know that. Okay. And you go home and you just play it. I've done it hundreds of times. And the more you are thinking about stuff that you know and how to apply it to the stuff that you're trying to learn, and vice versa, the better off you're going to be. So I hope I've impressed that upon you in this video, and I hope you've enjoyed it. I know this is a very unusual and kind of a different video for me, but I do hope you get something out of it, and I will see you real soon.